My name is John Gilmore, and like I mentioned, I'm from LaGrange, Indiana. And the museum invited me back again this year to tell you a little bit of a true and kind of creepy story about a magician. Because who doesn't like creepy stories, right? Well, the guy I'm going to talk to you about tonight, he did lead a very peculiar life. He was born in 1856. He died in 1873, 1881, and 1889. And we'll get to how can he die that often? We'll kind of get to that. But this guy's name was Washington Irving Bishop. He was the son of a lady named Eleanor who was a spiritualist. Because at that time, spiritualism became prominent throughout the U.S. where, well, from probably heard of the Fox sisters. They started hearing strange rappings and were saying that was the spirits trying to contact them, give them messages. Well, since then, the whole thing of ghosts and the paranormal and all that swept across the country and throughout everyone. They started doing stage shows with seances and all kinds of stuff, freaking people out. There's also a little bit of a con to a lot of that because some of these spiritualists would try to tap on these emotions and connections people have with their dead loved ones, and in return kind of extract a little bit of money from that. So this was kind of the household that Washington grew up in. And once he became an adult, kind of went off on their own, he started working full-time with another spiritualist. They'd go on stage, they would do all the seancey things where she would be tied up, put in a tent, and inside there would be tambourines and newspapers and stuff. And while she's tied up, the tambourine would rattle, newspapers would fly over the top, and all kinds of spooky things. Well, after Washington left her employment, he did what some other magicians at that time were doing by doing expose acts, where they denounced the authenticity of some of these things and disproving and showing that, oh, these are just mere tricks. The table levitation was they put their foot under one of the table and lifted up the corner of the table, or something like that. And he kind of built a reputation with a lot of scientists championing him, saying, oh yeah, he's debunking all this fraud. Well, what happens once you kind of get a little bit of success, you start thinking a little bit too highly of himself. And Washington did that. He was very narcissistic and egotistical. And he also suffered from a condition called catalepsy, where this was hereditary from his mother, because she suffered this too, where he'd go into cataleptic fits, where he'd fall down and basically, for all appearances, appear to be dead. And this happened numerous times. He claimed one time it happened for a 3-week straight period. And he always carried a card on him, somewhere on his person, that explained this condition and said, do not, under any circumstances, do any autopsy on me until at least 48 hours after I've been declared dead. And this, well, not autopsy, because otherwise he would have been declared dead once. But in 1873, this happened, where he was actually declared dead by several prominent doctors. And then, like 2 days later, he woke up and continued on. Happened again in 1883, and then the final one in 1889, which you could probably guess what happened, but we're going to talk about that in a little bit. Well, Washington, since he started getting this fame and kind of a big head, he kind of switched, well, I'm not going to say this is fake anymore, I'm going to switch to this is real. And he started presenting himself as being a real mind reader, spiritualist. He was the first and foremost mind reader in the U.S. or world, was what he proclaimed to be. Now, he became a pretty big name here in the U.S., but you really didn't make it until you made it big in Britain. So in the early 1880s or so, he went over to Britain to do a tour over there and make a worldwide name for himself. Well, like I said, he was kind of a little bit of a con man and fraudster too, but he knew how to market himself. For he would also often market himself that he was doing this purely for scientific reasons to show that he had these powers and this big, magnificent brain, that he would offer all proceeds from the show would be donated to a local children's hospital. Sounds pretty noble of him, doesn't it? Well, there's a little caveat at the bottom of the page that says, minus expenses. So he did this one big show, raised £1,000, which was quite a bit of money back then. And can you guess how much he actually donated to the hospital? 19 pounds out of 1,000. Hospital was so insulted by that, they actually refused payment from him. Now, at this time, there's an editor of a local publication there called The Truth. His name was Masculine. He wrote basically an expose on him, kind of, touting that he's a fraud, he's scamming people and all that. Well, Bishop didn't like this. So he in turn printed what we call today a parody newspaper or publication of it, basically turning the tides and calling Masculine in the paper trash. And yeah. Well, Masculine, wanting to defend his paper's name, took Bishop to court. And the courts found in Bishop's favor, or not Bishop, found in the paper's favor, mainly because Bishop never went to court. He skipped out on that completely. And as such, the court awarded an unheard of amount of judgment, £10,000. Well, Bishop didn't have that kind of money, or even if he did, he wasn't going to give it up. So he hightailed it back across the pond to the U.S., never to return to England again. But now he can say he was world famous, and he continued on. Now, what made him famous here in the U.S. was his mind reading. He would tout that through just touching somebody, he could find an object they hid. And what he'd do a lot of times would be like hide a little pin, a little brooch or something, or have somebody hide it for him, and then he'd go up and hold your hand or something like that, and then all of a sudden rush off, leaving you as he ran to wherever was hidden in the room or the building. He also began what was the first recorded instance of blindfold driving. They didn't have motorized vehicles back then, but instead they would get in a horse and carriage, and while he's blindfolded, he would whip the reins and all that, have the horses tear down the street, turning corners and all that, probably much to the horror of those riding shotgun with him, but he would go across town to whatever building was where that object was hidden. He also did, which is kind of popular nowadays too, is what's called murder mysteries. Has everyone ever been to one of those where you try to figure out who the murderer is? Yeah. Okay. Well, we're going to kind of reenact one of his effects that he did back then, and we're going to see if one of you is a murderer. Because what's the chance that there's two murderers in the room, right? But to do so, we have these 4 white marbles, and then we have a black one. I bet you can guess the black one's going to be the bad guy. But we've got the 4 white ones, which represent the, I won't say pure and innocent. Well, maybe innocent. I'm not quite sure about pure, but we'll let you guys come up with that decision. So we're going to put them in here. Now to do this, I'm going to need the help of some of you guys. Are you guys okay helping me? I promise this won't hurt me one day. Okay, so we're going to start with you. If you want to just reach in there, grab one of them, hold it tight, don't look at it. Okay, you got it?
Yep.
Okay, and how about you? Reach in there, grab one, hold it tight. Again, don't look at it. You. Be careful of the mousetrap. And see you, sir. Because when I think of sweet and innocent, you're what comes to mind. And you want to help. Okay. Reach in and hold it. Hold it in your hand. All right. And those of you that pick one up, if you want to come up and line up right here in front. Oh. Like I said, watch out for the trap door. I'm going to just do a straight line right here. And facing everyone else. That way they can see your Chinese happy faces. Now, are you guys okay if I put my hand on your shoulder? Okay. Because what Bishop would do, he would go from person to person and just feel the energy that's coming out. He theorized that each object, each person, would put off a vibration, and he would be able to feel it. And just by feeling that, he would like I said, pure and innocent, poster child right here. You, sir, you have the white one. Perfect. We will take that, and grab the back, so back in here, sorry. So, sir, you can sit down. So we eliminated one person. We still have 4 people here. One of these is the murderer. Who could it be? Again. Oh. Okay, okay, let's see. Don't open them up yet, because I'm still not sure I'm getting the vibrations. I'm not sure about you. You can go either way. Okay, you got a white one. You may look like you can be guilty, but no, you got a white one. Perfect. Just drop it right on in there. Okay, only 2 left. Again, outward looks, they both look pretty innocent, if you will. Oh, but one of them, there's a little glint in their eye. I don't know if you guys can see it, but there's something that tells me that, let's see, oh, you got some darkness. I think this is murder right here. Let's have her open up her hand and see, is she? She is. Okay, now folks, as you guys move throughout the rest of this building, I would say don't stand behind her. Keep her in plain view. But you have the white one, and very good. Everyone give her my assistant. But Bishop would do effects like this, and again, involve people. The last time he did this effect was May 12th, 1889, at the Lamps Club in New York. And as he's doing this, narrowing down who the murderer is, he went into someone called it a seizure. He fell down on the floor, got down, appeared to be dead. His assistants carried him off stage into a back room there, where he lay there for maybe about an hour, and then all of a sudden he started coming to again. Well, like most performers, he wanted to finish the show. Probably mainly because he didn't want to give any refunds. Now, plus imagine, that whole audience is sitting there for an hour, just waiting. But then we didn't have YouTube and TikTok or other stuff to occupy our entertainment, so there's nothing else to do rather than just sit there and kind of wait. But he goes back out there, continues his performance, reading minds, having them think of names, and he'll predict the names, numbers off the serial number off a dollar bill or something. And then he went into another catatonic state, dropped down, they brought him back up. This time he wasn't responding like he did before. Well, about 4 hours later, they called in a couple doctors, and the doctors checked him out and declared him dead. Now realize at this time we didn't have all the fancy equipment that could trace just the minute signs of life that maybe somebody in a catatonic state has. So they kind of went off more visuals and, well, I don't feel anything, I don't hear any breathing. But strangely enough, that little card that he always carried with him was not to be found. Now his wife was summoned and all that, and mother, and by the time they got there in the morning, an autopsy had already been done. Yeah. Now his mother and wife both declared that the doctors killed him. And they went on, well, the mother sued the doctors and all that. That went on in court for a while, but after a couple of years, they declared that the doctors were not liable because they were acting in good faith. But they were severely reprimanded for not following proper procedure. She theorized that they were quick to do an autopsy because he always professed that he had a super abnormally sized brain, and they wanted access to that to study it. Now, when Bishop was in his coffin and the mother came to see him before it was sealed and all that, she asked one of the funeral people to comb his hair. Well, she started combing the hair, and all of a sudden the comb disappeared. And it was then discovered that just under the hairline, there was the big slit, and the comb actually fell into his cranial cavity because the brain was no longer there. Well, when they did an autopsy later, again because of another autopsy later, because of the lawsuit going on, they actually discovered where that missing brain was. Any idea? Well, when they do an autopsy, they also do an incision across the chest so they can open up everything and take out the organs and all that. His brain was somehow then stuffed inside his belly and then sealed back up. And later examination proved it to be just a normal-looking, normal-sized brain. But there's still that controversy. Was he murdered? Or did he die? Well, obviously he died. But did he die naturally, or was it kind of assisted a little bit? But whether the case of whether it was murdered or not, Bishop is relatively unheard of outside of some of the magic community, but he was very vital for bringing a new form of entertainment, mentalism and mind reading, and which has developed into a lot of the greats you hear about and see today. Darren Brown is one of them. John Gilmore is another one, which you may not have heard me yet, but maybe someday I'll make it big in Britain, and then you'll hear from me, and I won't get sued over it, and I won't have to hightail it back here. And hopefully I don't get autopsy before I'm ready. But other than that, that is a tale of Washington Irving Bishop. It's hard when you have names that you can put in any order. But again, very peculiar guy, very peculiar life. I mean, how many people would say they died 3 times? And as such, happy Halloween, everyone. And our next story will be just to the right of me, to your guys' left. And thank you again very much.